Well, it seems like just about every year there's something that hits the headlines or comes out, and maybe it's some kind of thing from science or some folk medicine or just common sense that becomes the hottest new thing out there, right? It becomes the cure-all for anything that ails you. I mean, there's a few winters back in zinc lozenges. Say that again?
Lozenges.
Okay, you know what I'm saying. They were the biggest thing, right? People would take this zinc
Lozenge.
and that would help them to fight off the cold that they were having throughout the winter. Well, and then there were some small towns that volunteered to go through this experimental oatmeal diet. Was anybody ever on the oatmeal diet? Well, they said that the oatmeal, if you ate oatmeal, it would help lower your cholesterol. So in this small town, they were putting oatmeal on everything from yogurt to chicken. And it was supposed to help with lowering the cholesterol. But the problem was there wasn't clear enough instruction on just about how much oatmeal you needed, and you needed about a truck full. Then, well, and you may still take this medicine. I've never taken it, but I've heard a lot about it. Echinacea. And echinacea flowers have become the next big herb and for fighting off colds and flus, and it's like liquid gold. The herb itself has become more expensive than perfume. Well, all these new cures and new fads and new cure-alls that they've got out there, I have to admit that once upon a time, believe it or not, thank you, David, you got that. Believe it or not, I got pulled into one of these things. And I began to take this stuff called Zango juice. Has anybody ever heard of that? Now, Zango juice comes from this fruit that's grown in Thailand, and it has roots in the ancient Chinese medical practices and everything. And you start to read the bottle, and it just starts going on to all this details. You see, Zango juice can cure arthritis, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, migraine headaches, anything that ails you, this stuff is going to cure. And admittedly, I got sucked in to all those great promises that Zango juice was pitching. You know, some of these wonder treatments do seem to work wonders. I mean, they have some healing qualities to them. People who have colds, or, you know, if they're on those zinc pills or zinc lozenges, they go away quicker. And if you're on the oatmeal diet, well, cholesterol levels go down, and you just feel better and stronger and healthier if you're drinking Zango juice, right? But just about the time that you start feeling pretty confident in all these new fads and cure-alls, then something happens, right? There's a new study that comes out, and it says things like, you know, zinc is terrible for you, it'll make you go blind. Or if you eat too much oatmeal, you're going to have other problems. Or whatever the case. And there's that contradictory stuff. I can remember over time, you know, eat baked potatoes, they're the greatest thing in the world. And then it was don't eat baked potatoes. And then I've heard that just the smell of coffee alone can cure cancer. Well, I'm drinking coffee like crazy, so I guess I don't have to worry, right? But it's always this new fad comes out, this new cure-all, and then bam, we get hit. We get hit. So why is it that we did feel so much better when we were chasing after this cure-all and this fad? Well, I think one of the biggest medical boosts that we can give to our bodies, and you've probably heard this before, is simply the power of belief. In fact, physicians, faith healers, shamans, and even moms have known this forever, especially moms. I mean, let's face it. When you were little and you were outside and fell on the playground or whatever, and you came in the house and you were just crying, and you were all upset, and mom gave that little kiss on your boo-boo, you were healed, right? Moms have known that the power of belief and spontaneous hugs and kisses long before it was ever studied by science. But there is a scientific term for all of this, why we feel better, and you probably can guess it.
The placebo effect.
The placebo effect. Thank you to our parish nurse, Susan Allen. That's why we hired her. She knows it. You see, believing can create a power and an upsurge in your body. You know, if you're told that a new drug has been introduced to fight cancer or some other illness, all of a sudden, the power of belief can decrease the size of those tumors and make you feel better, even if it is a sugar pill. It's a mind over matter. And the placebo effect, it's been studied, can actually have as much impact as 90% to bring about healing. It's all about the power of belief. But there's an opposite effect. I don't know if you've heard this one. The nocebo effect. It has the opposite effect of the placebo effect, because the nocebo effect is the power of negative thinking, of unbelief. It's believing in the worst case scenario. It's believing that there is no hope anymore. And because of your belief system, your mind and body work together in some miraculous way that you become even sicker than you were before. You know, if you're given a particular drug to fight an illness or whatever, and you really don't have much hope in this particular medication, there can be the opposite effect. Unbelief or disbelief hinders your healing. And that's what's known as the nocebo effect. So exactly how sick can you make yourself? Well, there's a story of a woman who had gone into the doctor, and she was having some heart issues and not feeling well. And she went in and she was admitted to the hospital for observation. And while she was there, she heard the doctor say that she had TS. Have you ever heard of TS? Well, I guess this woman didn't either, because she thought TS meant terminal situation. But it's actually tricuspid stenosis. What's that, Susan?
It's a heart problem.
There you go. So she just simply had a heart problem. Well, this woman, because of the nocebo effect, and because she thought she was in a terminal situation, even though she was in the hospital, she kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and within a few days, she actually passed away. The power of disbelief and negative thinking limits our healing effect and can have far more serious repercussions. The power to heal and the power to hurt is all about what we believe to be true. Rabbi Harold Kushner said something that's pretty profound, and I ran across it, and I want to share it with you today. God who exists but does not matter, who does not make a difference in the way you live, might as well not exist. Let me read that again. God who exists but does not matter, who does not make a difference in the way you live, might as well not exist. If you believe in Jesus, in God, then it should be reflected in your life. And it should be shared with others. You know, if you know someone in despair, remind them that there's a reason for hope. If you know someone that's fighting a grave illness, pray and give them a vision of health. Do you know someone who battles with chronic pain? Share the scriptures and images of comfort and healing. You know someone who cries out with loneliness? Help them to make connections in their lives. You know someone broken by addiction? Walk with them into new freedom. You know someone emptied out by cynicism and consumerism? Remind them the joy of faith. You see, belief is a verb. It's an action. Your own faith has the power to release and to liberate not only you, but others around you. Despair is the lie. Suffering is the lie. Addiction is the lie. But awakening others to the power of believing the truth of Jesus unlocks your ability to walk into wholeness and new life. So why is it that the church is so anxious not to believe? Not to really live out those beliefs? Why is it that people in the church don't seem to have that hope that's supposed to separate us from all the rest of the world? Why is it that some people in the church don't exude that joy that's promised by Jesus Christ? Why is it some struggle with an uneasiness about them and don't have that peace that's promised through the scriptures and through Jesus? You know, we listen to the nightly news and then we just lament about the condition of the world. There's another natural disaster and we just write off the ecosystem. There's global warming and ignorance and greed and corruption that brings about widespread famine, and we just kind of shrug our shoulders. There's border skirmishes and long-nursed prejudices and hatreds and biases that erupt in what seem to be eternal wars. We cry out for a stronger military. You see, unbelief leads us to accept the inevitability of the bad news. And it takes all of those negative things that we think about and dwell on as the truth. You know, that's where Thomas is this morning in our gospel lesson. You know, Jesus has appeared to Mary Magdalene and the other disciples, and they're gathered in this room, and they're getting ready to, share the good news with Thomas, who hasn't arrived yet. But Thomas lets his doubt and his despair keep the door closed to that room and on the entrance to his own unique story. He remains locked up in his heart and spirit and mind as much as in that small room where they were all gathered. He's unable to believe, and so he's unable to respond with hope, anticipation, and excitement that filled the other disciples. But the risen Christ uses Thomas's doubt to bring about faith and health to all kinds of future generations of believers. Confronting Thomas with his wounds, the resurrected Jesus brought forth one of the greatest confessions of all time. When he places his finger in the wounds on the hands and his hand in the side of Jesus, he cries out, "My Lord and my God." Finally, Thomas acknowledges the ultimate stand in faith. And Jesus takes this moment to offer all of us something, the future generations, and says, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet come to believe." In other words, folks, seeing is not believing. Believing is seeing. So do you believe this morning? Do you believe in the power of Jesus Christ? Do you believe that power is greater than anything in this world? You see, believing makes all the difference. Thomas Aquinas said it this way: to one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is possible. Believing makes a difference. Faith makes a difference. You know, I think of my son when I think about the power of belief and the power of faith. I shared with you, I guess, a couple of different times about Brian, my oldest boy, and when him and Emily had their son Gage, my grandson, shortly after he was born with cystic fibrosis. And of course, ripples of concern ran throughout the entire family. Oh no, what's going to happen? It was clouded in this mystery, and everybody wanted to know the answers. And Brian and Emily simply began to pray. They prayed for healing to take place in their son's life, and they continued to pray for an overwhelming joy. And let me tell you, Gage, when you meet him the next time, he's a little bigger now. He's a ball of energy with a big smile on his face, and he is always giggling and carrying on. That kid has joy overflowing in his life. He knows he's loved and cared for, and it shows. Well, it was a few months ago now that Gage went back to the doctor for one of his checkups. And the doctor came in the room, and of course, they were waiting to see where the cystic fibrosis situation was at. And the doctor said, "I don't have an explanation for you, but there's no cystic fibrosis in it." The power of prayer, the power of faith, the power of belief. But it's just not praying over Gage, my grandson, that Brian and Emily do. They give God everything. It's amazing to me. I was really jealous the other day talking to Brian because he's got 4 different businesses that he's running now. And he's got this sign in his house, and it says something to the effect, don't think I'm lucky because you don't know how hard I've prayed. He prays and prays and prays. That kid is amazing. I'm in awe of it. And it shows in his life. Like I said, he has 4 businesses. He's 35 years old. That kid's going to be a millionaire by the end of next year. Because he's given it all over. He's given his marriage over. He's always rushing to a retreat or some other event to strengthen and develop a strong relationship with his wife. It's amazing how God is working in his life. And like many other testimonies, it wasn't always like that in Brian's life. But the power of faith and the power of belief have yielded a harvest that is, I'm just, again, in awe of, on how successful his life is, how happy he is, and how he's got those gifts that Jesus promises us, that peace of mind, that joy, that hope. And it's all because Brian knows that Jesus is the remedy. He's never met Jesus in person, but he's one who fits this. What Jesus' words, where he said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have come to believe." You see, folks, belief and faith is the way to healing, to wholeness, and new life. Belief in the Lord Jesus Christ leads us to the life that he promises us. So believe in the Lord and live out your faith. Amen.